Davis Hammet is the president of Loud Light, an organization fostering a culture of citizen participation and resistance in the state of Kansas. He's been an activist since age 10, when he attempted to shut down a Burger King for animal rights abuses. At 14, much like some of the children who just came on stage, he was a certified green building inspector in his home state of Florida. And while attending university, he organized his community around transitioning to renewable energy. Without further ado, Davis, please take the stage.
I was born 30 years after DDT was banned. Yet that chemical entered my body through my mother's breast milk. And every single one of us here today has DDT in their body. Like so many pollutants, we played a dangerous game, and now toxins are part of our reality. I did not consent to this. None of us did. It is an attack on our liberty. It is a betrayal of future generations to continue to play games with pollutants. When DDT was first being restricted, where do you think they continued to spray it? Whenever we banned it in the United States, where did we continue to sell it? We sprayed it in poor communities of color. We sold it in South America and Africa. So much environmental injustice runs along these lines of race and class, and that is not a mistake. The lack of regard with which we treat our environment is reflected in the lack of regard and disrespect with which we treat each other. As we confront environmental issues, we must confront sexism, racism, and homophobia, all prejudice. The continued dumping of toxic waste into poor, vulnerable communities is a crime against humanity, and that crime is only made possible through our arbitrary divisions, willful ignorance, and social segregation. As we embrace the responsibility of confronting climate change, we must ask ourselves who benefits from the status quo and who will benefit from the transition. Will it go to an elite few, as has been the case, where greedy individuals with more power than nations gained more and more money and power, or will we give this new power to those that have been most exploited? Will we lift up the systemically oppressed with opportunity, use this moment to eradicate poverty, to invest in healthcare and quality of life, to create and make that better world which we all know is possible, which is the reason we are here today. The interconnected struggles permeate every facet of the economy and every notion we have of justice. When the climate rapidly shifts, it's not just floods and drought, it's refugee crises. It's crop shortages that starve people. When we use unsustainable farming methods that pollute and collapse our water systems, what does that look like? It looks like in Des Moines, Iowa, where now they spend $1 million a year just to get nitrogen out of the water. By the way, that's upstream from St. Louis, Missouri. In Pretty Prairie, Kansas, they have this same nitrogen problem as many communities do, but they can't afford a system. So pregnant women and children are given water vouchers. These aren't simple problems. They aren't rural problems or urban problems, black or white problems. They are very deeply rooted, complex problems, and we must face them. But to face them, it will take us all, including those who ignore the science and disagree with you. So you have to find ways to begin those difficult conversations, to speak in languages that will win over their support, because it will take all of us. Because this issue, this cause, this challenge transcends our divides. It calls each of us to act. It requires each of us to grow in our understanding. It demands that we reassess our assumed premises, reevaluate the ideas of what our society is. I don't have the time to fully criticize the economics that dominate this era. But I will tell you the most dangerous word I know is externality. It's the word to describe all the real consequences: the child with asthma, the acid rain, the pollution of the planet and the land, the pollution of the people. We take every variable like that. We take every consequence, we call that an externality, and whenever we void our formulas of these variables, all we have created is a formula for extinction. If we want a better future, we must measure things differently. Does economic growth matter when a child is starving? Does the GDP mean anything when we can no longer drink our water? There are better ways to measure things. There's things like the GPI, the Genuine Progress Indicator, things that actually tell us how our people and how our planet are doing. We have these tools, but we choose to ignore them. The theories and institutions that dominate today, this entire system is so damn fragile, and remember that. You have the power to break or shape these institutions. You guide the national consciousness. You are a moral witness. I believe in a grand vision of justice for people and planet, but we need immediate relief for those struggling today. And that comes in the form of jobs, real jobs that pay real living wages. And conveniently, we have a real monumental obstacle we must overcome. We have so much good work to do. We can give people dignity and a purpose in life, rebuilding our old infrastructure, creating a new society based on sustainability, based on energy efficiency. The psychopathic pursuit of hoarded wealth is not a given. The predominance of greed is a symptom of a failed system. If you are sincere about dealing with climate change, you must be prepared to rethink everything about our society. That's not easy. I don't really understand it either. But I do know in the beginning, this earth was our womb. Today it is our home, and tomorrow it will be our tomb. It is the most sacred possession that we are stewards to. There is no truer or more crucial undertaking in our short time on this planet than to secure it for future generations. This inevitable task, the tipping point of what we must do has come. The moment is now. The people of the prairie lands are acutely aware of the delicate balance we have in this world. The great plowing brought us the Dust Bowl. And so too we are beginning to reap the consequences of short-sighted gains. But this land is also the place of barn raisings, where entire communities came together for the monumental task of lifting up a barn frame, something that no single family could do, and they expected nothing in return. They had a social responsibility to each other, and they lived up to it. And just like raising a barn, we cannot achieve our goals without every single one of us. It won't come from a corporation, it sure as hell won't come from a politician. The future we need comes from you, the person next to you, and next to them, from all of us respected and represented in a society that embraces our diversity, throws down the challenge, and rises to the occasion. The climate revolution, the green revolution is inevitable, but will it too be a social revolution that steers us away from corruption and exploitation, away from inequality, inequity, and suffering? Will we use this moment to give power back to the people? May the green revolution be a people's revolution. May the people of the prairie again raise more hell than corn. From the explosion of urban farming in Kansas City to the development of perennial polyculture in Salina, Kansas, there are important things happening here now. Be a part of it. Think of the skills you have. Find a way to contribute your talents. If that's volunteering at a community garden, weatherizing a neighbor's home, collecting water samples, educating your peers, no act is too small, no task too futile. Will you do something? Yes. Will you do something? Yes. Will you show up every chance you get to defend your planet? Yes. Will you use your civic power? Will you register everyone around you to vote? And will you show up to make sure that no politician that denies climate change ever has the honor of calling themselves your representative? Will you use your civic power? Organize within your neighborhoods, within your city, your county. Build coalitions, shape consensus, develop the collective muscle that is required to reign in this new era. Learn new ideas and new ways of communicating them. Cultivate friendships centered in justice. Know that your power, your potential only stops where you decide it stops. I'm often asked why I have so much hope. Every day, I change the things I can. And I remember that there are thousands of people changing their communities for the better every day, and I will never know their names or the tasks they did, but I know it's happening. Now I know that 185 people were killed last year doing this work, and I have to honor that by showing up to do whatever I can each day as respect to them, to their lives that they gave for the cause. I have a great hope in this place, in you, in us, in a movement for climate justice and jobs for people and planet, a movement to mend our shared home, to decide our shared future. Whose future is that? Ours. Whose future? Ours. If you get only one thing today, I want it to be you knowing how powerful you are, of how much is possible through you, of how much we can, nay, how much we must accomplish in our short term on this earth for future generations. We can accomplish it not in isolation, but in a togetherness that rises to the occasion, that uses each of our powers to shape our future through our movement.